You are listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast, the podcast for the off-roader with a short attention span.
All right, thank you for tuning into the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki G. I'm here to inform, talk, and delight you about all things off-road for the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Well, that's about all the time I have. All right, I'd like to start off by saying Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hope everybody's safe, grilling and chilling and doing whatever. All right, so this week I want to talk about what you take out on the trails with you. I'm just now starting to go through my rig and cleaning it up and getting things out and making sure I got everything with me. Just wondering, what else does everybody else pack? I know everybody packs differently. I will say I pack my rig according to the trails I go on, not necessarily the trails, but the people I ride with. If I'm just going to go on a nice, light, easy trail ride with a wife and some people, I don't pack as much. When I'm going on some heavy off-roading stuff with some guys that they can pretty much talk me into anything. They egg me on. And so I always carry a little bit more extra spare parts. So I reached out to you guys on social media and overwhelming response. It varies. Some people pack the kitchen sink. Some people don't pack anything at all. And I just want to run over some of the highlights I got. And thank you to everybody that responded. I really appreciate it. So Robert says he packs his wife and daughter. That's great, Robert. And, enjoying it with the family is what it's all about. Okay, Alex says zip ties and vice grips and duct tape. And I gotta tell you, I usually have 2 of the 3. I'm always missing one. Last ride I went on, I needed zip ties desperately and didn't have them. I think this time I'm missing my duct tape. That's the problem with having the vehicle and the family has keys to it. Whenever the kids need something, they know they can just go in the Jeep and find it, which I don't mind. It's there to use. Give me a heads up, Dad. I took your duct tape. All right, so Mark goes a little on the heavy side with spare drive shafts, unit bearings, high-pressure power steering hose. I never thought of that. Wheel studs, control arms, U-joints, and a serpentine belt. And, of course, the CPS, which is crank position sensor for us Jeep guys. Well, I guess other vehicles have crank position sensor, but the Jeep is bad for blowing out the crank position sensor. Spare drive shafts, man. I carry U-joints sometimes. I think I've used all my U-joints, so I don't have any with me. But, I'd rather replace the U-joint. Well, I guess replacing a drive shaft is a lot faster and easier. Unit bearing, I'm bad on. Next time I change out my unit bearings, I'm going to save my old ones. Never thought I needed one until I saw somebody blow one out on a trail. And the high pressure power steering hose, that didn't even cross my mind. Although I did see a video of this duct tape, that's silicone tape that's made to repair hoses. I don't know if it would work on a high pressure power steering hose. Power steering, I think that's something that I can get off the mountain without power steering. Maybe. Even if you're hydro assist, you'd still have steering. All right, Clay takes the easy way out and says a truck and trailer. I wish I was at that point in my life where I could trailer my rig. All right, Robbie says wrenches, sockets, a map torch. I never would have thought of a map torch. If you don't know, I don't know what MAP stands for, but it's a gas that burns a little bit hotter than propane. So it looks like one of those little 2-pound propane tanks that you see plumbers use all the time, but it's MAP gas instead of propane. A 4-pound hammer, a high lift, recovery straps, penetrating oil, a pry bar, screwdriver clamps, a 45, a knife, spare bolts, and an impact hammer, a drill, and 1 or 2 other things. I rarely off-road, though. If you carried all that in your daily driver, you must have an XJ, because they require a lot of spare parts and gear. recovery straps, very good. That should be the first thing in everybody's bag, is some type of recovery. And of course, I think every man and most women that are out on the trail have a pocket knife. I don't go anywhere without a pocket knife. It's back from the Boy Scout days. So Ian says, a tool bag with a variety of tools and wrenches and sockets, a pry bar, a breaker bar. I gotta say, I don't carry a breaker bar. I just carry 1.5 feet of pipe. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose my tools, so I don't bring my good tools. The harbor tool and freight tools and cheap stuff is usually what I carry in my Jeep. An air compressor with a tire fixings. And yeah, everybody should have, if you air down, you should have a compressor. And I find it helpful that when you're wheeling with friends, you get together with them and you decide on who's bringing what. Not everybody needs to bring an air compressor, and not everybody needs to bring an impact. So just, I'll bring the impact, you bring the air compressor, you bring this, they bring that, and then, this way you're not carrying as much, but there's everything there. All right, Eric says, a few Jeeps to pull out. The way I read it is Eric brings a few people for him to pull out. So he must be one of those Toyota guys. But I'm just kidding, Eric. Yeah, it's never wheel alone, and we're all guilty of it. I go on mild trails all the time by myself. Someday I'm going to break down on the mountain and be stuck up there overnight. That's another thing, is I pack for, oh crap, things. I always have a blanket with me in case it's cold. More food and water than I think I'll need. If I'm up there for a day, I'll bring 3 days worth of food and water. Rich says it depends on the type of trail and the length of the trip, which I agree with you there. I pack differently for each ride. He just says the normal tools, wrenches, a torque wrench. I don't take a torque wrench with me because I'm not rebuilding anything on the trail. I just kind of, you can tell by feel if it's, 100 pounds closest to it. Like I said, when I'm doing repairs on the trail, I'm just trying to get to the trailhead and possibly home. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, just has to be safe. And then Art also says a wiring kit and electrical tape. And a wiring kit, I just twist and tape connections together. Once again, I'm looking at it as not a permanent fix, just something to get me down off the hill and home, and then the proper maintenance begins. Tire patch kit, which is very good. Couple of pieces of 2x4, some wheel chocks, and I gotta be honest with you, I carry a couple of pieces of 2x4 in my Jeep, but wheel chocks, I just grab a nice wheel chalk shaped rock out on the trail, and I think everybody else does. I've never seen anybody pull out a chalk, but it's good to have. If you got the room and the space for it, that's a good thing to have. It's, in my opinion, it's better to overpack than to underpack. Ratchet straps, absolutely. Go to Harbor Tool and Freight and buy a 12-pack of, or a $12 pack of ratchet straps. I think you get 6 of them. You'll need them. And then go to Northern Tool when you get a chance and buy some really heavy-duty ones, like you see like kinds you see on flatbed tractor trailers. All right, Smitty just keeps it simple and says everything. All right, Dustin says extra 10mm sockets. Absolutely. You need a minimum of 4. My dad used to say when we were packing for a camping trip, we always carried extras of everything. Everything had to serve 2 purposes. And his old adage was 2 equals 1, 1 equals none. So if you have 2 10mm sockets, you might as well just count on having 1. Or in my case, none. So Sean says sockets up to 1 inch, wrenches up to 3/4, a multi-purpose tool, which I take it is a Leatherman he's talking about, an 18-pound sledge. I'm going to assume that's a typo, because, man, I don't think I could swing an 18-pound sledge. A few feet of 16-gauge wire. That's always good to have, yes. Electrical tape, duct tape, a lockout kit. I have no idea what that is, unless he's talking about locking his keys in his car. Then it's a coat hanger, a headlamp, a rechargeable flashlight, an inverter, a tarp, portable electronic charger, and a jump box. And then Patrick adds in, and also an extra Jeep. Yeah, the old adage, 2 is 1, 1 is none. If you're out on the trail and you have 1 Jeep, you might as well consider yourself none. All right, Chad says, we don't usually have any room for parts. I'm with you there, buddy. So here's an interesting one, is Derek said he did his first Gambler 500, which I'm not too familiar with that is. I imagine it's like the Baja. But he says, I did my first Gambler 500 in an XJ that someone gave me for free. It was rusted. And we had all hell. Maybe I should read this first. It was rusted all to hell and had to add all kinds of angle iron just to get the seats bolted down correctly. Man, that's a rotted out floor for sure. The first event, I brought every tool that I owned, every spare I could find, and I only used one 18mm wrench the whole time because a rear shock bolt came loose. The second Gambler event, I downsized the tools by about 95%. U-joints and axle shafts are nice to keep under the back seat. If you have them, you never need them. I'm with you there. The gist of it, he says, if you pack it, you're probably never going to need it. If you don't have it, you're going to need it. But Daphne says, my dad worked at a junkyard growing up and always gave my mom cars that would come in that he would fix for her. I remember she always said, as long as you have a rock and a paring knife, you're good. I agree with you there. All right, William says, a coat hanger. You don't need a hammer as long as you have a rock. All right, Brian from Route 16 Grind. You got a second? Check out his podcast, the Route 16 Grind, or check out his website, Route 16. Very awesome guy, great to wheel with. I love him. He's like a brother to me, and he's very sensible. So if he says it, if he says you need to carry this, then you need to carry this. Belt radiator hoses, valve stems. That's something I never thought of. A mat, fluids, a power tank with air tools, a Via Air 400 PA, radios, a hand axe, traction jack boards, a first aid kit, signal lights, to name a few. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Valve stems, I don't have those. I have a little kit, 4 tires that has my air compressor and stuff in it. I don't think I've got valve stems in it. So I'm gonna have to throw valve stems in it, or a valve stem tool. Or they make those valve stems that you bolt on from the outside. They're a bit pricey, but they'll get you off the trail, I guess. All right, then Gretchen, or AKA G-Mag, who I wheeled with before too. Awesome young lady. She also says recovery gear, traction jacks, a 64-piece socket wrench set. I only have a 63-piece set, so I gotta get a piece. And she says, I haven't reached the level to bring extra parts with me yet. I've wheeled with you, Gretchen, and I gotta say, she's an awesome wheeler. She takes very good care of her rig. It's always top-notch running. You don't need to carry a bunch of extra parts with you, Gretchen. Now, me, driving my old Ratty XJ, yeah, I need to carry everything I could fit in there, because everything I have is on the verge of snapping or held together with chewing gum and a prayer. All right, so Mark from FM Jeeping, and check out his YouTube channel, FM Jeeping. And he talks about why his Jeep is named FM Jeeping. It's pretty interesting. I never would have guessed it. But he says basic hand tool sets, wire connectors, a spare Dana 30 axle shafts, a unit bearing, and vice grips. And, I think I do have a pair of vice grips. My vice grips come and go for some reason. It's like they grow legs. But if you got a chance, check out Mark's YouTube channel, FM Jeeping. He wheels pretty hard, and he's really building his rig up, and it's always a work in progress, and it's very interesting to see how it's coming along. All right, man. This show's running long. I think I'm getting close to the 10-minute mark. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now it's time for the question of the month. And the question of the month is the hot dog a sandwich? And Josh answered, no, it is definitely not a sandwich. A sandwich implies cheese. Well, I've seen cheese on a hot dog. I go, if it's between two pieces of bread, it's a sandwich. Hamburger, it's a sandwich. A very delicious sandwich, but a sandwich. Hot dog, it's a sandwich. It's a funny shaped sandwich. It's the redheaded stepchild of the sandwich family, but it's still a sandwich. This month is almost over, and then we'll go on to the next question of the month. But all right, but thank you guys for tuning in. The trails are opening up. I'm going to be out there and about. Please don't throw things at me when I approach you and ask you a few questions. This is Nikki G signing out and saying, wheel what you got and be happy.
Follow the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Twitter, the Gram, and YouTube.